So Edmund, what is this Undi Malaysia thing and all that? Can you explain?
Undi Malaysia is a non-partisan citizen movement which was launched on September 16, and we have grown very quickly to about 1,000 over community movers in different communities all over Malaysia. Basically, we have game shops and we have what we call a DIY toolkit to enable all Malaysians to be able to take action to solve their own problems without relying much on our institutions and without relying too much on our politicians. So we want the Malaysian people to be empowered independently and to be able to take these issues into their own hands. Of course, not breaking the law and not being violent about it, but to realize that there is a system of democracy, not just in Malaysia but all over the world, that is now very flawed. That's why you see a lot of different movements like Occupy Wall Street, which want to work outside the system. We work within the system, but we want people to see the big picture that our democracy and our institutions are now controlled by a minority elite. So it's no longer what people call the tyranny of the majority, but it's now tyranny of the minority. So you see all our institutions around the country, all that is happening is always this select few of people who are in the elite class, who are upper class, which really do not benefit the rakyat, especially now when in our politics as is emerging, it is a zero-sum game. You're either for Barisan Nasional or Pakatan Rakyat. And we want the young people who have a lot of energy, who are very restless, to actually focus their resources into looking at the issues and dealing with the issues, rather than taking sides.
So do you have a special focus on certain group of people, or like students or old people or retired?
Yeah, our focus is actually the youth, and that's why you see all our community movers and all the pictures. They are all the young people here, and especially those people who have come out after the Bersih experience. So we are tapping into that, and there are more and more people joining us as we go and do our game shops every week. So every week we have one or two in different institutions, and it's very exciting because this is a new concept. It's not lecture or it's not discussion. It's something where you crowdsource yourself and you actually give your information and you see your own picture. We are going to publish a book in the next few months, which is being drafted now, which will have what, as I said, a toolkit. So a short book will be out in the bookstores, where any Malaysian can actually just pick it up and use the tools there, which we have developed for the past few months. We are still road testing a lot of the tools, but it is quite, it is very encouraging, and we will be launching that very soon.
And Edmund, what Undi Malaysia has to do with Lawyer Buruk?
Lawyer Buruk is the blog online.
Okay.
This place, Pusat Rakyat, is actually our on-the-ground community center where anybody can actually use the place to have discussions, debates, forums, and we have hosted many different people. Undi Malaysia is one of the initiatives of Pusat Rakyat, and this Undi Malaysia is a long-term movement where the focus this first term is on food and housing, budget and education, and freedom of expression. So the coming term we will be deciding on 3 new themes, but the exciting part of it is that we are expanding. So we've actually announced a few vacancies for more people because we don't have enough hands at the moment, paid staff, and also we are also focusing on the Orang Asli and Orang Asal rights. So we want to empower youth leaders from the different Orang Asli and Orang Asal communities to be able to help empower them, and then they go back and lead their communities rather than have only the same faces actually leading. And it's a very encouraging sign because I think Malaysia is opening up, and there are a lot of people who are quite interested in activism, and they don't see this as something that is confrontational. They don't see this as something that is they should be afraid of. In fact, they embrace it. So they are asking, last time they said, oh no, I'm not going to be interested, but now they are saying, hey, how can I be involved? So it's something that's very good, and we are very encouraged just a few months that we've launched this movement.
And something very interesting that you said just now about freedom of expression.
Yeah.
Which level are we in this country on freedom of expression? Do we really have the freedom to express yourself?
Yeah, I think the question Yes and no. The question of freedom of expression on the internet has probably gone to the extreme. You have seen. So even news which may not be completely the truth is out there on the internet. And nobody can control it. The government cannot control it. The laws cannot control it. And I don't think there should be an attempt to control it. In fact, if there is falsehood or malicious news that's going out, people should use the internet to counter those news and to actually give more credibility to news in the mainstream. So if you talk about the mainstream, of course what we see very clearly is that you only have really one side of the news skewed towards one side, and when you do that, there is no credibility. So while people read the mainstream, they read it with disgust, and they say, I don't believe this anymore. And if you continue doing this, the country will go nowhere. So but we are very encouraged that government has said they want to look at the permit, the Printing Presses Publications Act. We say you must do away with the permit to make the mainstream newspapers more competitive, to make them more credible, so that they are able to freely express both sides in a way that accords with their conscience. So that is something that we look at for freedom of expression. But on the internet, I think nobody can control. So if you talk about internet, yes, you look at freedom of expression, but if you look at mainstream media and you look at a lot of different types of young people voicing their views, so long as it's not that political, we see that the government won't clamp down. But once it's very political, then the government starts clamping down. So again, looking at which story and which issue.
If a government staff publish something in Facebook, although he's not talking about that government, but is it wrong for him to express his...
No, we believe across the board freedom of expression applies to everyone. But the exception is that you shouldn't incite hatred based on race and religion. You shouldn't incite advocacy. You shouldn't incite an advocate for war. And thirdly, you shouldn't defame someone. And defamation law is very complicated. There are many defenses. But generally, if you want to say something about someone and you want to say, oh, this person is a liar, you must make sure you back it up.
Yes.
Because if the person sues you, you must defend yourself in court. So just these three categories. Apart from that, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's writing a letter, I think it should be free.
Should be free. Okay, let's talk about Malaysian current political situation nearing to election. We're not taking any sides. We're not. I'm not supporting Pakatan Rakyat or I'm not supporting the Barisan Nasional Movement. But where is the weight now? And do you think that we can make a decision, or it's still too early for us to make a decision?
Okay, I'm not a political analyst, so don't ask me about the reading on the ground. I'm not a politician, and I don't go around asking or going to cheramas and all. But I think what we see is that there is a clear urban and rural divide. So if you look at the urban seats, what happened in 2008 is really most of the urban seats are for the opposition, or well, Pakatan. And that's why a lot of the urban states have also fallen to Pakatan. The rural areas are slightly more following the conventional status quo. So firstly, how far has that divide been bridged in terms of rural empowerment, rural education, urban empowerment and urban education? Has Barisan Nasional sort of penetrated the urban voters, have Pakatan penetrated rural voters? So that's still very much in the air. But we always forget about Sabah and Sarawak. I think Sabah and Sarawak has different equations. The politics in Sabah and Sarawak are totally different from Peninsula. And again, I'm no expert, but I think we must look at that. But when people ask from a non-partisan point of view, right, what do you want to see if you want to look at 2020 as a developed country? In every developed country, there is an extremely efficient check and balance, whether by parliamentary select committees or whether by a second party. So in Malaysia, we have seen a party rule for many years now, and we have seen Pakatan Rakyat take over surprisingly a few states. So it's for the people to judge whether if you stay in those states, Pakatan has delivered on their promises, whether they will be good for business, whether they will be good towards making us more competitive, whether they will be good towards making us a more developed nation. So that question is, if you say you want to change federal government, does the change in federal government make this party that has ruled for 50 over years, 60 over years, more alert, more efficient the next time round? And if you want to bring in a new coalition who is not tested at the federal level, it's actually much easier to kick them out because they have made promises. I'll get rid of the ISA, I'll get rid of PPPA, I will improve race relations, I'll do this, I'll do that. They've put this on paper, as opposed to Barisan Nasional that has not in a lot of ways. So if a party has come in and said, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this, and they don't do this in the next 2 years, 1 year, where there's no movement, you can actually move towards no confidence. Of course, historically, you see the student movement as being very strong. Then government got afraid. Because all Tun Mahathir, Anwar, Ibrahim, they all were actually student leaders. Then when AUKU came in, everybody got scared. You go into universities, you control, you're very afraid to speak up. Then I credit Fahmi Riza for actually bringing back student power with all his lectures and making it interesting again, and the Perhimpunan Mahasiswa. I agree with you that we have now seen a group that has taken on the rebel role. Because in Undi Malaysia, we believe on this Bill Moyer's model, that in any society, for it to change, there must be 4 types of activists. First is the respectable citizen, who will not do anything, but who will vote or who will speak out. Second, you need a social change agent. So there are different groups who do that, like the Bar Council, for example, who speak out as a credible body. Thirdly, you need a rebel. So the rebel will be the one that may go and lower a flag, for example. Maybe the one that is outside the police headquarters protesting, because they will just be the ones taking a very confrontational hard stand to highlight the issue. The 4th type of activist is the reformist. So these are the high-level discussions. These are where people like Berse, Ambiga and Maria will be sitting down with the PSC saying, how do we improve the law? And this is my recommendation, this is my memorandum. In any society, to develop, you need citizens, all 4. You cannot have one. So for the longest time, we've always had only really one. You hand memorandum, you hand memorandum, you hand memorandum. People are afraid to come out. Students are afraid to come out. You suddenly see that there's this group which has taken on the rebel role. Whether you agree or whether you disagree, whether action is taken against them, I'm not talking about that. That's not what I'm talking about. You're talking about the big picture. I say that they have taken a rebel role. That's why you say that, oh, you don't see them afraid. You may see them aligned to Pakatan. Never mind, let it be. But let the discourse come out. And now you see even on Twitter, on Facebook, students are now actually coming out because they've broken the fear factor. And you needed the rebel to break the fear factor. Because you know that if you have a large number, if you have mass, the police won't be able to do anything. If you go and rally, and if you keep suppressing them, there'll be more people joining the cause, like I said too. So it's the numbers game. But I agree with you, to move forward on the AUKU issue, on the student movement, you need the social change agent like the Bar Council to come in and try and moderate, but also you need reformists to say, how do we change the law? How do we give more freedom to the students? And the extreme view is, and I think that's what the people who take the rebel role want, is to say, give back the universities autonomy, let us run our own universities. So for example, if I discipline you, if you are charged for disciplinary offence in university, why aren't my peers as students be on part of the disciplinary board to decide whether you are right or wrong? Why are we still run by administrators who are obviously quite political? There is political interference and who may not be experts. So just to finish up, I think our tertiary education as well is lacking in different ways. There are many graduates who are unemployed, and there is something wrong that needs to be improved. This AUKU and freedom issue is one, but also the quality of what we are teaching our students.